Hello there, and thanks for tuning in. My name's Anastasia. I'm a full-time artist based in Santa Cruz, California, working under my studio name, Follow the Sun Art. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite art supplies for acrylic and watercolor painting. So when you go to the art store, it can often feel overwhelming at the amount of options you have among paint, canvases, brushes, everything like that. So in this video, I hope to break down kind of some simple supplies you need just to get started with painting. And once you get going, you'll develop your own personal preferences as you try new supplies. So it's all a matter of personal choice, but I'm going to keep it simple in this video and just tell you what you need to dive into the world of painting. So first I'll talk about acrylic paints. Some of my favorite brands, probably my most favorite is this Watercolor paint brand. So Watercolor creates these professional quality paints that are really durable and the pigments are really vibrant. So they only sell directly from their warehouse, which makes them a lot more economical compared to the professional grade paints you'd get from a retail store, for example. Okay, and my next favorite brand that I've been working with for a long time is Liquitex. So Liquitex has a couple of lines of paint. So their Basics line is really great if you're just starting out, and they're pretty economical too. The colors are great. I'll use them every once in a while. But if you can splurge on the higher quality paint, the professional quality pigments, they have stronger color saturation. So I recommend using those if you can splurge on them. But if you don't have a big budget, the Basics line is really fine. And then with the professional paints, there's a heavy body and a soft body. So heavy body, it has a lot of texture. It's pretty thick. So it's good if you like physical texture in your paintings. And then I personally prefer the soft body acrylics because I like to have like a nice smooth finish on my paintings. So matter of personal preference. And then another brand that I use pretty regularly for my art classes especially is the Dick Blick brand of Blick Acrylic, Economy Acrylic Polymer. So these colors are great, the consistency is awesome, they're pretty economical if you're going to be using a lot of paint, working on a lot of different projects, and you're on a budget. This is a great way to go. They have a wide variety. I get their quarts and half gallons. Okay, and there is a wide array of pigments too. You don't have to get every single color, although it's nice to experiment with different pigments. So I generally like to keep it simple and just work with primaries, and keep it simple for you guys when I'm teaching my classes, so you don't have to get a whole wide color palette. And I keep it pretty consistent. So my favorite primary colors are phthalo blue, magenta, like a primary magenta or a quinacridone magenta, and yellow, either primary yellow or cadmium yellow. Black and white are always good to have on hand. Payne's gray is a really nice pigment for getting like more subtlety in your colors, toning them down, and getting darks as well. I also love to use ultramarine blue. That's a great cool shade of blue. That's really good for shadows and mixing certain colors. I use a lot of turquoise in my paintings just because I love that color, so recommend getting turquoise too, or aqua. That has different names depending on the paint brand you go with. And then burnt umber and burnt sienna. Burnt umber is like a deep brown and sienna is that reddish brown. And those are just really nice unique pigments that are tricky to mix, but they come in handy if you're painting landscapes or subjects in nature. So yeah, those are my color suggestions for you guys to get started. And as you explore, I always recommend trying out new pigments because there really are a lot of really beautiful ones that you can incorporate into your painting. But yeah, just keeping it simple for now. Okay, so for watercolor painting, I recommend getting a set of pan paints or tube paints that are professional quality. It's pretty nice to have an array of colors to incorporate and get those really lovely watercolor effects. So I have this set of Colore watercolor paints that I've been happy with. Also some Daniel Smith ones. Windsor & Newton is a really popular brand among artists. Yeah, but I think the best is to have like a nice set like this of the pan paints, just because it's pretty affordable to start out. You can always refill them as needed, or if you can find a good set of tube paints. If you get them individually, it tends to be pretty pricey, and there's so many pigments to choose from. But yeah, I also think it's really worthwhile in investing in the professional quality paints with watercolors, just because their performance will really be different compared to like the student grade paints. And again, there's that pigmentation. The pigments tend to be brighter and have better flow and vibrancy and stuff like that. So that's important. And with watercolor, a little bit of paint will really last you a long time. So it's worth it to invest, you know, unlike acrylics, you kind of go through so much paint to make a painting. But yeah, that's what I recommend for watercolors. And then I've also got this Sakura Koi Pocket Field sketch box. I've been really happy with this little travel set. It came with a water brush and a nice selection of colors, so it's really good for on the go if you're taking a hike or traveling. This is a new palette I've been testing out from Zen Art Supplies, and this is actually a beginner color palette. It's really economical, but I've been loving their colors. They're super vibrant. They're really easy to control too if you're just getting started. And it's nice and large, also great for travel. Comes with a couple of brushes, plenty of room for mixing colors as well. So that's been a great one. And then we've also been doing some gouache painting lately in my classes, kind of a new medium for us. So I got this set of primary colors from Caran d'Ache, and it's just got yellow, cyan, magenta, black, and white. You can mix those to make any colors, but if you can get a wider array of colors, if you really enjoy gouache, you can totally do that. But I've been happy with these paints. They're great quality. Brushes. So if you invest in one thing in your art supplies, it should be the brushes, because they're going to make or break your experience. If you have like a really cheap flimsy brush, for example, this one's like really floofy at the end, came as like a pretty inexpensive set, it's going to be really difficult to control your paint. But if you get nicer brushes, you're going to have more control over your paint. You'll have a better experience painting, have more fun with it, and be more inspired to continue with your art practice. So the brushes that I use for my classes, they're pretty economical and super versatile, are these Blick Wonder White brushes. So they've got these synthetic bristles. One way to test your brushes is to see how well they hold their shape. So if you bend the bristles back, they should just spring right back up into shape. And that means they're good. And so you don't need a lot of brushes to get started. Of course, when you go and look at brushes, you can see there's a wide array of shapes and sizes, and you really don't need that many. I usually just use 3 brushes to for most of my paintings. So if you're working really large, you might want like a 2 or 3 inch flat brush. But if you're not going too big, you can get away with a 1 inch flat brush. The sizing, it's pretty inconsistent among brands, so I do recommend buying your brushes in person so you can really like get a feel for them in your hand, test out the bristles, and see the actual size. But this is a size 24, and it's about 1 inch in width. And then a medium brush is good for a little bit more detail work. So this is a size 12 flat brush, and it's about 1/2 inch in width. And then you want to have a round brush too for your details, so like a size 4 or size 6 small round brush. It's good for some line work and details. So yeah, those Blick Wonder White brushes are really great, versatile. I use them for my own paintings all the time. And let's see, I've also found these Princeton Art and Brush Co. round brushes. They're pretty inexpensive and really good quality, so I got some detail brushes with those. There's a 4, a 2, 0, depending on how much detail you want. Now for watercolors, if you want to step up your game, you want to look for a nice natural bristle. So sable is the best material for watercolor brushes. Just because they'll hold a lot more pigment and water in their bodies, and they come to a fine point and they maintain their shape really well over time. So if you get a really nice fancy watercolor brush, it'll last you a long time. for sure, and give you really good quality results. So this is kind of my go-to brush for everything watercolor because it holds so much paint. I can fill in larger areas. It also comes to a really fine point when it's wet, so I can get really fine details just as well. And this is a size 6 Blick Master Stroke Finest Red Sable round brush. So super versatile. I use it for like almost every part of a painting when I'm working with watercolors. And then I also have this fine detail size 0 Raphael. It's also Kolinsky sable, I believe, or squirrel. Yeah, sable or squirrel are great for watercolors. So a little pricey, but if you do want to pursue watercolors a little more intensely, that's what I recommend. Good brush care is equally as important, so if you are investing in some good quality brushes, you want to take good care of them over time. So after every painting session, I like to give my brushes a really good cleaning with some brush soap. So oftentimes I'll use the Masters brush cleaner, or Pink Soap is another good brand of brush cleaner. And make sure you don't leave them sitting in water too long. That'll kind of mess up the enamel and the ferrule that holds the bristles together. So yeah, don't let them sit in water, and give them a good cleaning when you're done. Okay, for our painting surface, you've got a couple of options. So for acrylic painting, I recommend painting on canvas, which you can get it several ways. So the canvas boards are nice. They're pretty economical, great for practicing on, great for finished works as well. And they come in a variety of sizes. That's a canvas board. Or you can also get a stretched canvas. So they've got those wooden bars on the back, and they're stretched over that. And you can get these in many shapes and sizes from your local art store or anywhere online too. I personally also enjoy painting on wood panels. I love the smoother finish. You can either paint on the raw wood or gesso it, same finish as on the canvas. So yeah, wood panels, same thing. You can get them many different sizes, shapes, and pretty easy to find too. Okay, and for watercolor paper, my kind of go-to is a cold press heavyweight watercolor paper. So when you are looking at your paper, it's got all kinds of information on it. You've got the weight of the paper, that's how thick it is, and the heavier paper, it's going to hold more water and buckle less. So I always get the 140 pounds or 300 grams per square meter. 100% cotton is really good. Sometimes they'll use other fillers like wood pulp or something, which doesn't perform as well. So cotton is great. And then cold press gives you like a slightly textured finish, whereas hot press is smoother. And that's more of a matter of personal choice. And so the brands of watercolor paper that I love, I'm really happy with this Fabriano paper. This fluid paper has been great. Just kind of found that at the art store. Never heard of it before, but it's awesome. I also love the Blick brand of watercolor paper. It's really great. Arches is like some of the finest paper. Use that every once in a while. And in our classes, Canson paper has been really popular. I've also enjoyed the Strathmore watercolor paper. But same thing, those key terms are cold press or hot press if you prefer smooth finish, and you want to look for the weight and see what it is. And then they're available in different sizes. You can also get watercolor paper in different forms. So this is like a paper pad that flips. They're pretty nice and standard. You can get individual sheets, you can buy it in rolls. My favorite way to get watercolor paper is on a block. So these blocks are all the sheets kind of bound together at the edges, and what I like about them is that they are pretty easy to travel with. They don't get like damaged or folded or anything, and they don't buckle as much because they're already kind of like clamped down in the block. So really easy to work with. So I get these in different sizes. These are all watercolor blocks, and this one too, a little 9x12. When you're ready to get to your next sheet, you just grab a butter knife and kind of peel that top sheet off, and then you can take out your finished painting, frame it, and start another one. So I hope that gives you some guidance on purchasing art supplies. If you want to see all of this written down and links to purchase online or you know, just the names of the brands and everything I mentioned to look for. You can see that on my website, on my blog. I have a blog post kind of highlighting all the same things. And if you are feeling inspired to get into painting, make sure you check out my Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/followthesunart, and we've got the Paint Along Club there. It's just $10 a month. We do 2 monthly Zoom classes using acrylics and watercolors, and an additional recorded video every month, kind of trying out new mediums or like another demonstration in watercolor mediums. And you can make requests, and I put all the recordings on there. There's like a year's worth of classes available as soon as you join. So yeah, go check it out, grab your art supplies, get creative and have fun.